Jeff, on April 30th, 2003, wrote a letter to his girlfriend, and he put in that letter that he had done immoral things. And he said that he did things that he only saw in movies and thought would only occur in movies. When he came back, he wasn't the man that we sent, that he left. He was a shell. And I can remember it was in May, a few weeks before his death, and all of a sudden his mother was saying all she wanted was her little boy back. And Jeff stood there and he said, pounding his chest, "I'm right here, Mom." There's something, and I don't know, I've never found a word, I'm not a veteran, but Jeff taught us that there is something about war that can destroy your world vision. We taught Jeff and our other children the world was a good place. It was a safe place. When he came back, that no longer existed. And he was radically different. So when we talk about moral injury, we talk about the destruction of a foundation that he had. And all of a sudden, when it's replaced with nothing, you just couldn't bear with it.
So one thing, I don't know much about this, so I'll say that the moral injury and what the answers are, I know really nothing, but I do know that there have been Native American experiences of warriors coming back and going through some kind of process kind of to wash themselves of war, so to speak, so they could come back into society. So one thing about that says to me is that they understood and the society understood and was truer to themselves about what war is, whereas this society tries to pretend like war is something that is not. You know, we try to sanitize it and make it more acceptable so that it's easier to send people off to do it. And then you come back and there's no real re-entry for people who participate in it. You're just kind of thrown back into society, so there's no place to try to forgive yourself for what you might have done, you know. So I think part of it is going back to the way our society relates to war. Also, you spoke about the narrative, and earlier when the thing about as if something's not true when I talk about a story, it's got nothing to do with something being true or not, because you can take things that are totally true and express it through narrative form, or you can take a bunch of lies, which is exactly what's going on, and express it through narrative form, right? So the guilt part of building the soldier is for everybody else. The unknown soldier tomb is for everybody else too. It's just not for the soldier to want to become a soldier. It's also for all of us as civilians to look at that and then feel guilty, right? So that we continue to put all this praise on the soldier, so that makes the soldier want to go so they can get the praise. So it's like a circle. So there's a lot of that stuff that we do need to break and create a new narrative about it. But the biggest thing, I think, is telling the truth about war. You know, so people understand that right from the beginning. And when people come back, they can be able to talk about it. You know, because we already know what it's about before we go. Kids don't know.
Yes, moral injury to me is, and I don't know what other word to use, but you lose part of your soul. For the majority of the people, it's unnatural to kill another human being. You do it for a number of reasons. The closest reason is you want to stay alive. And the God and country and all that good stuff goes away once you starts getting shot at, and you realize that that individual over there is trying to kill you. So you could say it's self-preservation, but once you're out of that environment, you start thinking about what happened and what you did. And like I said, you lose part of your soul. and you never get it back. Hopefully, you learn to live with it. And I believe the next question is right there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I wish I had a better idea of how to formulate this, but first I think what you're doing in talking to people is so incredibly invaluable. And I want to say, I've been a peace activist since the end of the Vietnam War, and I have a son who's been in the military and was deployed twice. And I find the hardest people to talk to be other people who are leftists and peace activists, because the reaction that I get is you know, your son could join the military. And yes, my son grew up with, you know, my view of the world and his immigrant father's view of the world, and yet went into the military as a teenager to do something noble and for all of the things that you say. And what we need to understand is how pervasive our society's view is, and how affected our young people are. So that yes, you can be a leftist and your son can go in, and that disconnect that my son still, I mean, he's against the war. Most people in the military are opposed to the wars, don't think they're going to get sent over, and yes, are in there doing the best they can, even though they don't support it, doing the best job they can. But we need to find a way to break down the separations between us, because when you talk about Vietnam, there was a draft. And yes, I was married to somebody who was drafted and sent to Vietnam in 1968. So, you know, we need to find a way to, when you talk about our worldview and our narrative, I totally agree with everything you're saying about that, but I still have trouble, you know, I mean, I understand in my gut
I'm sorry, but
my
do you have a
son's doing
question?
what he's doing. Yeah, how do you think we can take this discussion and bring it out more to reach more people in our society that need to be reached to understand, you know, for us to understand each other, to make it easier to fight against it.
Yeah, but we all need to speak out. We all need to not give up. We all need to spend, I'm sorry, but at least once a week, do something to get to the public. Don't talk to your friends that feel the same way you do. Talk to somebody that disagrees with you in this area, and give them the facts. And try, you don't need to convince them, you just need to get them to listen to you and think about what you say. Because I actually like people that, when I stand out in the street and they yell at me, go home or get a job, I'm making them think. I'm making them think.
I'll just say, you know, thanks to the brave people in this room who have shared of themselves. It doesn't happen very often, I think, in public life that we talk about these real issues. And as far as how pervasive the violence and the hero worship and all of that is in our society, we saw that in a huge way with American Sniper. And so that's something that we've been trying to counter. We've had several members who wrote about it. Garrett Reppenhagen, who was also a sniper who turned anti-wars while he was over there, has done several media pieces, and we're hoping they make a movie about his story someday. But I think, yeah, we just have to keep trying, keep finding ways to get it out there, and find ways to make our message appealing. I think because we're on this moral side, we think we just have to tell the truth, and you know, why don't people get it? But media and entertainment, Hollywood, all of that stuff is like big money and big stimuli, and we need to know that that's what we're up against, and we have to make an appealing message and be appealing to the people we're trying to reach out to.
And I think you have to face your fears. There was a person driving by our house for over a month, and any time that our grandchildren were outside or we were outside, he was driving a car with a veteran's license plate, and we would hear fucking traitors, assholes, and he would speed up. My wife, being the insane person she is, one time he didn't speed up fast enough. She jumped in the car and drove after him, right up to his house, and confronted him. And that's a very extreme situation, but it shows you that you've got to really believe in what you're doing and continue doing it despite the fears. That would be the thing that I would say.
Wait. So what happened?
Well, what happened was the guy denied that it was him, even though she followed him. And she was very diplomatic since he was much bigger than her. And she just said, well, if you ever find out who's doing it, tell them to stop doing it. We haven't heard a thing since.
Thank you very much, but I'm afraid the witching hour has arrived. We're not allowed to go past what we already went past. But I would like to express appreciation for you all showing up, and also the panel members.
Thank you.
And you know, I like what you take home with you to send letters to Congress and the White House to end these endless wars. And the more we tell them, the more they'll get tired of it maybe, and they'll do something right for a change. But again, thank you very much, and I thank you, the panel, for sharing your very personal stories. Thank you.